Today, we're going to talk about the incredible story of J.K. Rowling. You probably know her as the author of Harry Potter, but her life story is almost as amazing as one of her books. Okay, just take a look at this. It's like two different people, right? On one side, we have J.K. Rowling back in 1994. She was a single mother, she was poor, and she was really sad. Now look at the other side. That's her today. Super rich, super famous, and loved by millions and millions of people all over the world.
So the big question is, how? How did her life change so much? What happened to take her from one to the other? Well, that's the amazing journey we're going to explore right now.
All right, let's start at the beginning. Part one is called A Poor Writer. We're going to look at her difficult life in Scotland. So try to picture this. The year is 1994. We're in a little cafe in Edinburgh, Scotland. And there's a young mother just sitting there writing a story in a notebook. Her little baby is sleeping right next to her. The reason she was writing in a cafe was because her own home was too cold. She didn't have enough money to pay for heating. So, where did this amazing story she was writing come from? Well, that brings us to part two, the big idea. And it all started with a really magical moment on a train.
This actually happened a few years earlier in 1990. She was on a train that was delayed. So she was just sitting there for hours, and suddenly, bam, the whole idea for Harry Potter just flooded into her mind. The characters, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, felt like real people to her. And right then, she decided it was going to be a series of 7 books.
Now, you might think that having such a great idea would make life easier, but no. For her, things actually got much worse. This brings us to part three, a hard time. Just a few months after she got the idea for Harry Potter, something terrible happened. Her mother died. This made her incredibly sad, and she put all of that sadness into her book. It's the reason why the main character, Harry Potter, is an orphan who never knew his parents. So, trying to make a fresh start, she moved to a new country, Portugal. Over there, she got married and had a daughter named Jessica. But the marriage was very unhappy and abusive, so she knew she had to leave. She escaped and came back to Britain with her baby girl and the first 3 chapters of Harry Potter. When she got back to Scotland, she had almost no money. Look at this, £69. That's all the money she got from the government for one whole week. It was very little to live on. As you can probably guess, this was a really dark time for her, and she felt very depressed. She actually used that feeling in her book. You know those scary, cold monsters in Harry Potter called the Dementors? Well, she said they were a symbol of her own sad feelings. That cold, empty feeling that takes away all your happiness.
But here's the most important part. Through all of this, she never ever gave up on her dream. And that takes us to part 4, writing in cafes.
So, her daily routine was pretty simple. Every day, she would push her daughter in her pram to a cafe. While her daughter slept, she would write and write and write. And from the window of the cafe, she could see this big old castle on a hill, Edinburgh Castle. And that real life castle became her inspiration for Hogwarts. And here's a fun little fact for you. Inspiration came to her at the strangest times.
One day, she was on an airplane and didn't have any paper when she had a great idea. So she grabbed the only thing she could find, an airplane sick bag, and wrote down the names for the Hogwarts houses on it. It's true.
After 5 long years of writing, her book was finally finished. So let's move on to part 5, the first book. The world was about to meet Harry Potter. But just because the book was finished didn't mean it was easy. She sent it to lots of publishers, and one after another, they said no. Can you believe it? 12 publishers rejected her book. But she didn't give up, and finally the next publisher said yes. And you know who helped convince them? An 8-year-old girl. The boss of the publishing company gave the first chapter to his daughter to read. She loved it so much that she immediately came back and said, "I have to read the rest." It was that little girl's excitement that really got the book published. Now you might wonder about her name. Her first name is Joanne, so why J.K. Rowling? Well, the publisher was worried that boys wouldn't read a book written by a woman, so they asked her to use initials. J is for Joanne, and since she didn't have a middle name, she chose K to honor her grandmother, Kathleen. And after that, her life began to change. Big time. Her first payment for the book was only about $4,000. But then a publisher in the US paid over $100,000 for it. And from there, it just exploded. Today, more than 600 million Harry Potter books have been sold all over the world. That's just a huge number. All of this success brings us to our final part. Part 6, A New Life. Her journey from being a poor writer to a world-famous author was complete. With the money from her book, everything was different. Remember how she had to write in cafes just to stay warm? Well, now she could finally buy her own home in Edinburgh. Her days of being poor were finally over. She once said something really powerful about that period in her life. Rock bottom became a solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. What she means is that being at the lowest point, having nothing, actually gave her the strength to build her life up again, stronger than before. Her story really is a great reminder that one person with one big idea and the determination to never give up can really change their life. So we'll leave you with this final question to think about. What is your big idea?